So being on or about 6:30, I want to open this regular meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission for April 5th, 2020. Bring the meeting to order. Please note, in keeping with the ongoing emergency order from Governor Charlie Baker, to limit gatherings, maximize social distancing, and under legislation passed to address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To join the meeting using your computer, click on the URL at the top of the meeting agenda or copy and paste it into your browser. To join by phone, call the number provided underneath the URL, and you will need the meeting ID to join by phone. Please note, as I noted, this meeting is being recorded by both audio and video. Applicants will be given the ability to assume remote control of their hearings and present documents and materials as needed. On April 6, 2020, the Commission delegated signature authority to Andrea Langhauser, Environmental Planner, Assistant Planning Director, for all decisions issued during the duration of the emergency. So now that the introductions here are done, I just want to do a quorum. So roll call for a quorum. Caulfield's here.
Spadia here.
Thomas here.
Thank you. Just one other bit of housekeeping that I just want to talk about a little bit, and maybe we can make some progress on it over the next meeting or two. And that is, it has always been our intention that these hearings be as concise as possible. And so I think we're going to try and limit the hearings to 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, I'll determine whether or not I want to continue and extend the time beyond that. I do ask that both the applicant's representative, members of the public, and the commissioners please keep their comments concise, focused, and on point. So that will help us get to a concise meeting and one that works for everyone during these very challenging times. The other issue is, as was started at our last meeting, I will be asking Andrea to give us a very brief 1 minute or so summary of her staff report and any sort of underlying issues that could be open for the board to discuss. And of course, we're open to discuss other issues we believe are pertinent. So that being said, I want to start with 12 Red Mill Road. This is a notice of intent for proposed utility upgrades for the Red Mill Road water treatment plant. And just to note that we have received the DEP number on this, so we can proceed on this.
I brought forward our DPW assistant town engineer, our water treatment supervisor, Sarah Price and Ryan Trahand from Environmental Partners, the consultants. If there's anybody else I need to bring forward, let me know. Grace, is Grace part of your team?
Yes, Grace is part of our team.
Grace Dronka. Brought up.
Okay, so who's going to take the floor here?
I have a short presentation. I'll keep it even shorter based on what you just said. So if I can share my screen, then
I'll make her co-host for now. Or no, as a panelist, you can share her screen.
There. Okay, so we're here to discuss the Red Mill Road water treatment plant. So the DPW proposes to construct a new water treatment plant for existing well stations 3, 5, and 7 for the removal of source water, iron, and manganese. So the project proposes a combined treatment plant for wells 3, 5, and 7 at 12 Red Mill Road. You can see it located right here, and the existing well stations are right here. So the purpose of the project is to treat these wells for iron and manganese and improve the water quality. So we're proposing a 1.69 MGD treatment plant, which includes an administrative area, laboratory, mechanical, electrical rooms. And for the treatment itself, we have pressure filtration, chemical feed systems, and then a below-grade clear well for storage of finished water and pumping. Then we've also reserved an area within the building for PFAS treatment to be installed in the future if needed, not currently needed. So the proposed building is a single-story pre-engineered metal building, approximately 6,900 square feet. And then we have 2 residuals handling lagoons, bioretention areas, and an access driveway. So kind of an overview again, we have our proposed building off of Red Mill Road, our lagoons, and the 3 file stations over here. So we did look at 3 alternatives. Briefly, our preferred alternative is to locate the treatment plant on the 12 Red Mill Road parcel. This allows us to develop most of the treatment plant outside of the Well 3 Zone 1. The treatment plant itself will be located entirely outside of the wetland buffer zones, and it's town-owned property. We did look at 2 other alternatives, one at 11 Red Mill Road, which is adjacent to Well Station 3. This would have resulted in a significant amount of wetland resource impacts. So that was not a preferred alternative. And then alternative 3 was to expand Well Stations 3, 5, and 7 and add additional treatment at each source. Again, it would have required wetland resource impacts, and it ultimately was the least cost-effective option. So onto our proposed plans. We've proposed erosion controls along Red Mill Road at the treatment plant site, and we have a stabilized construction entrance. We've also proposed an orange construction fence around the entire limit of work to prevent pedestrian access onto the site during construction. And we will be doing some minor modifications at each well station. So you can see some filter sock along the access road up to Well 3. And then at the well stations, again, we have the sedimentation controls along the access road and in the areas where we'll be doing some work and adjacent to the existing limit of clearing. So here's our proposed plant and site grading. So we have our treatment plant right here, the access drive, which will accommodate fire trucks and chemical delivery trucks. You can see the wetland resources have been flagged on the left-hand side and their respective buffer zones here. And then, as I mentioned, we have 2 on-site lagoons to the south of the site, a septic system, and for stormwater controls, we have grass channels and 3 bioretention areas for infiltration to the ground. And our site utilities, we're bringing electric, gas, raw water to the treatment plant, and then finished water back into the distribution system. As I mentioned, we have an on-site septic system that will be permitted through the town's Board of Health. And then for the on-site lagoons, we have our residuals that result from backwashing of the pressure filters. So these residuals will flow into these lagoons. They're lined with an HDPE liner. So solids will settle in the lagoon while the water will percolate through a thin drainage layer and an under drain system that's all within that liner. The under drain will pipe the clean water to the dry wells for infiltration to the ground. And the solids that are ultimately settled in the lagoons will be excavated and disposed off-site. And then at the well stations, we have utility work at well station 3, all within previously disturbed areas. And then at well station 5 and 7, which isn't shown, 7 only includes a utility line under the access road along there. And then at well station 5, we're proposing 2 1,000-gallon propane tanks, again on previously disturbed areas, and its associated utility work. And some details of our erosion controls: filter sock, dewatering bags, or stabilized construction entrance. And all of this was in our application package. And then the stormwater BMPs, again, we have a typical grass channel and our bioretention areas with associated planting plans. I'm running through this a little bit, but I'm happy to take any questions once we get to the end. And just in summary for resource area impacts, we're approximately 9,000 square feet of temporary impacts within the buffer zone only. The only permanent impacts is for the propane tank installation, which is, I think, about 185 square feet of permanent impacts at well station 5. And again, that's within a previously disturbed area. And then approximately 700 square feet of temporary impacts for utility installation to the bordering land subject to flooding. And we have no impacts to the riverfront area. So with that, I'm happy to elaborate on anything and take any questions.
So I actually don't have any questions. The application I thought was very complete, and the erosion controls, which is our big area because the disturbance is temporary for the most part. So I think you've done a great job putting this plan together. Does anybody else on the commission have a question?
I am all set, Rory. Thank you.
I'm all set too. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public for 12 Mill Road? If you want to put that in the Q&A or chat, or raise your hand if you know how to do that, and we'll promote you so you can ask a question. Okay, so seeing none, I am going to make a motion to close the hearing, issue a permit for work, and order conditions for 12 Mill Road. Hang on a sec. The computer is not making it easy for me. And I think that just noting the conditions in the staff report: stormwater management annual inspection repairs as needed. All inspection reports be logged and available to the Conservation Commission upon request. No dumping in the wetland should be is a perpetual condition, and erosion control measures as identified on the plans. Do you want us to change any of that, Andrea? You mentioned specifically paragraph 6.
It's, I list out the summary of the erosion control items that we found on the plans and in the notice of intent in paragraph 6.
Okay, so as noted on the plan. So
Spadia second.
roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Spadia, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good evening.
Okay, next up is 2 Greenfield Street. This is a RDA for an installation of an above-ground pool.
And I brought forward the applicant who can unmute himself and turn on his video if possible.
There you go. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Do you want me to bring up the plan I have here from your
Yeah, if you could. I unfortunately don't have some kind of a great presentation set up. I'm just trying to put an above ground pool in.
Yeah, no, I got it. Let me just make sure I got the right screen here. Okay, so we should be able to see this plan, this hand-drawn plan. Everybody see that?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you want to do here and conditions and whatnot?
I'm just trying to get basically a 12 by 24 oval above ground pool in my backyard. Trying to keep it obviously within all the buffer zones. I have a intermittent stream that you can see that kind of runs through my back property line. It's like right behind it, I would think. That looks like it's in the way, and the building inspector asked me to run it by you guys before I went any further.
Okay, so
I am putting the wetland line, the intermittent stream he identifies is there. It has a little bit of a very narrow bordering vegetated wetland along the edge of it. And then it's lawn back. And then it's fully lawn after that. It's very flat, a very flat backyard, and it's been in place, the house has been in place, Jeff, since 1971.
Correct.
We don't have, the only application we had earlier was for a shed, that was relocated out of the wetland, close to the wetland here. It was moved away from the wetland. And other than that, there's no history on this site. It's an ACEC with the area across Heath Drive being the wooded ACEC Hockomock Swamp you would expect. This is part of a well-developed, long-developed suburban neighborhood.
So one question that I did have is there were 3 trees that were taken down. They were sort of maybe located between the pool and the lot line.
Yep.
So can you just give me a little bit of perspective on when those trees were taken down, for what purpose?
They were taken down recently. They were starting to, with the wind and stuff, just make a mess and starting to come over a little bit. They're kind of big. I didn't really want them to come down on the house. There's some trees up on that, like, if you kind of go back into this corner that are also starting to tip a little bit, and over the wind, one of them had come down. So at that point, I just kind of didn't want anything that was going to be close that could hit my house, pretty much.
So I think just one of the sort of takeaways from this is that those trees coming down should have come before us.
Oh.
Because you're inside the buffer zone at that point. I mean, in fact, all this work is inside the buffer zone. It's inside our jurisdiction, and so this isn't just those were, not tiny trees. Those were bigger trees. So, that just for your education, almost anything you want to do in your yard is probably subject to our jurisdiction.
I apologize.
And so you should be coming and at least making a call to the Conservation Commission office to understand whether you should be coming forward to us with an application or not. So just for an education standpoint here.
No, yeah. I didn't think I'd have to, for tree maintenance, I didn't think that was required. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a tree that's endangering your house, we've certainly, it's not something we wouldn't not allow. It's just something that we would have
Go through
to
the
actually
process.
have a discussion about, because it is wildlife habitat as well as has other values as well in the environment. So the normal process here with pools is, especially this close to a wetland resource, as well as in the Hockomock Swamp ACEC, is that we would want a 2-foot gravel drainage splash area around the pool, so that if any water did get out of the pool, normally would happen with kids playing in your pool,
Yeah.
that it stays right there instead of running off into the wetlands. Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing.
So, and I think also that we typically are looking for, instead of a sand filter that has to be backwashed, but rather using a filter system that can be, just the filter itself has to be clean instead of having the whole system have to be backwashed. That's typically a standard for us. Any questions here from the commission?
I'm in agreement with you, Rory.
The same. I was concerned about the backwashing, so that was my key point there.
I mean, the area is within existing lawn, correct? It's hard to tell over the aerial.
Yeah, it's absolutely within existing law.
Okay, yeah, so I'm in agreement with everything that you said.
Yeah, it's a well-developed, well-manicured lawn, so well-established, been there forever, best I can tell. This neighborhood is, one of the older, one of the first sort of development neighborhoods in Easton. So, let me just, okay, let me stop sharing my screen, and I got to move this to a different box for me.
I take that opportunity to
Yeah, I apologize for not calling you on the last
properly
meeting.
notified.
Yeah, the other thing, I do apologize for not calling you to give me your summary on the last one. So, you want to give us the summary? I think you've already given us the summary on this.
I did give the summary for this one. Yeah.
So I appreciate
I wasn't going to take it. I wasn't going to let that happen twice.
I know, I apologize. Any public comment for 2 Greenfield Street? Raise your hand or put a note in the comment box. Okay, so seeing none, I am going to make a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability with the following conditions. We do want you to install a silt fence 10 feet off the lawn edge to act as a limit of work. Gravel splash guard 2 feet wide should be installed around the perimeter of the pool. How deep do we usually have that be?
18 inches.
18 inches deep. The pool shall use a cartridge filter system, and no discharge of pool water shall be allowed within 50 feet of that resource area.
Spady second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Spady aye.
Thomas, aye.
Okay, Mr. Dos Reyes, I think you're it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is 244 Prospect Street, and I believe we're entering the Collins Engineering Group portion of the evening.
Good evening, everyone. You can hear me all right?
We can, yeah.
Awesome.
So this is a notice of intent to complete a construction of a single-family home. You are going to have to give us a little bit of backstory on this, Peter, given the situation.
Sure. I will start with sharing the screen. And can someone just confirm you can see it for me?
Confirmed.
Awesome. All right. I'll start with the close-up picture and give a little bit of history, and then we can move around the plan as it makes sense. So this is a revitalization of a 2009 project that we were involved in, initially for the raising and reconstructing of a single-family home and the associated septic system in the front yard. So quick history of the lot. Back in 2009, this project was approved through conservation, and the foundation actually went up. The stick framing was up in place, and the current owner had gone bankrupt at the time. So over the years, the building had just deteriorated, and now what's left out there is simply a concrete foundation with a gravel floor and a bunch of fill around the project. So just looking at the plan quickly, we're proposing a relatively smaller single-family home, and right behind it is a red outline. That's the existing lot. So that's what was in place prior to 2009. And now the existing foundation, as shown, is actually on the site, and the existing contours reflect what's there today. So what we're doing is basically looking to finish developing the site by bringing the building up, building it out and installing the new septic system pretty much as originally proposed. Couple of things we're contending with here. Obviously, we have a on-site bordering vegetated wetland system, as well as one across the street to the north of Prospect. Bunch of lines going on here, but pretty much the septic and the house are occurring between the 50 and 100 foot to the wetlands, with the exception of the back corner of the house, which is as close as 36 feet. Just a reminder, that's kind of in place. Otherwise, we'd push to move that out. With the original proposal, wetland flag 8 was kind of more in line with 6 and 9. So back 22 years ago, we had originally proposed the 50-foot separation, but now based on the change to the wetland, the house location didn't change, but the wetland did, kind of situation. So we're proposing a kind of a two-stage process. One is going to be removal of a lot of the filled materials that encroach into the wetland buffer. So we're looking to strip that down a couple feet in some spots, loam and seed it with a upland meadow mix, and allow that to naturally revegetate. We would then be reestablishing a work limit between that and the proposed work. So kind of establishing the lawn line at that point, going around the project. The septic's going in the front. Proposed driveway to a garage. We will have a surface water swale to the west side of the driveway to bring any additional surface water down and redirect it toward the back of the site, kind of matching the original runoff patterns. We've proposed underground infiltration for the garage runoff, and that was to offset the increase in flow between the old building and the new building. So we're not in creating any additional runoff with this design that's not treated. Kind of a lot going on. So that's a quick rundown. The only other thing is an existing foundation in the back that's you know, kind of just proof that this site has been previously developed. We have historic imagery dating back to 1971 showing these buildings developed on site, as well as a much larger chicken coop or some type of probably farm structure in the rear of the property. So that's my rundown. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of questions on this, so.
So Peter, what's proposed between the area where you're going to change the fill and the lawn area? Is that a retaining wall that's going in there?
What are you looking right here?
Yeah, right. That you're. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's not a retaining. This drawing doesn't show it great, but one of those lines is basically the edge of the seed, and then the 23-foot line, that's to our work limit. On the CAD version of the plan, that line's thicker where the erosion control is, so it basically we're proposing seed right up to the erosion control. And then once that's taken off, we're going to provide an additional erosion line to the western edge of that seeded area.
So how are you going to make the transition from the house to the level where I mean, right now it's about a 3 or 4 foot drop, right? Where that fill is?
It is currently, yep. So we're looking to strip out that material pretty much back to the foundation.
Okay.
And yeah, ultimately it leaves us with a lot of concrete reveal on the foundation, but without dragging the grading closer to the resource areas, that's kind of just going to happen.
Yep.
So,
No, I understand it better now.
Yep. Yeah. So looking at the house from the wetlands, it's basically going to be a flat area till you get to 6 or 8 feet of the house, and then it's going to be a 3-to-1 up to the foundation.
Got it. The one thing I do want to point out is Peter pointed out that the previously existing home on this would have been, under the current conditions, 31 feet from the wetlands, and this home is 36 feet. So, so as Peter said, the original design it would have been 50, but the wetland has changed. So, short of taking up the entire foundation, I think they're probably doing about the best they possibly can here. It was going to be in a better position than it was originally. So having been out on the site, this is probably one of those few sites in Easton that appears to be an abandoned site. You really don't see this very much in Easton, and I can't imagine what it looked like when it had actual lumber up on the foundation. So, getting this house finished and built is certainly a big improvement for sure. So I think the one thing, Peter, and maybe we could just cover it. I think I know what is going to be said, and I've read the packet and whatnot. But could you just give us a little bit of the rundown on the waiver, since we're working inside the buffer in the ACEC?
Sure. Let me just grab the report quick. Basically, well, I'll just skim through it quick, and if there's any questions, stop me. We're looking at any reasonable alternatives. There would be alternatives if the existing foundation weren't already in place. So we don't really have a lot of room. In order to develop this lot, we need to fit a house, and we need to fit, an appropriately sized septic system. The way everything's spaced now, we're as close to the road as we can be, and we're as close to the septic system with the house as we can be. So, we're really doing our best to tuck everything into that furthest jurisdictional corner of the lot. You know, we've
Yeah, I mean,
proposed.
I think it's really important for us to consider this was a previously disturbed lot. I mean, it had a house on it, so it's not like he's trying to develop a lot that was empty and you know, fit a house on it. This had a house on it. So.
Yeah, it is, like you said, kind of a weird way of going about it, but the alternative is, you know, to knock that foundation down, but you really don't have any options.
Yeah, I think even if you knock it down, you're only going to improve it by a couple of feet. I mean, you don't have a ton of room here, so.
No, we don't. So that's not really a practicable option. Secondly, we're looking at minimization and mitigation measures. As we said, we're removing a large area, 1,200 square feet, to be stripped of, you know, fill and restored to more of a natural condition. Right now, it's not a loam covering; it's just, you know, loose subsurface fill, not really supporting vegetation. And as far as accommodating public interest, I mean, I do the survey work out here, and I had at least 2 or 3 of the neighbors, you know, say, "Oh, thank God they're finally doing something with this. You know, this is an eyesore to look at. We don't really care who buys it or what happens, but you know, we would like to see something happen with the lot." So I think that right there tells us, you know, the public interest is cleaning up this eyesore that's been around for 20 years now.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a no-brainer and really the only answer we have.
Okay, I mean, I think the other thing you might get some credit for here is just the buffer zone enhancement that's being done with you stripping the fill out and returning that area to naturalized areas. So, okay, so I think you've covered everything else. What the material? And so the driveway is meant to be a impervious asphalt, but you're gonna direct it away from the wetlands anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's going to end up down there, but we're providing a grass swale system, you know, basically with the longest run we can before it would, you know, intercept the wetland area.
right. Okay. Andrea.
All the abutters were notified. I just wanted to clarify a couple points that Peter made. One was that the area that the fill that he's taking out was not authorized by the original decision. It actually, in the construction of the foundation that's there today, the contractor went beyond the approved limit of work and created this swale. By creating this mound of fill, the wetland moved forward. It wasn't, you know, God.
Right.
It was the fill that was put there. So I think it would be not quite accurate to say that
Yeah, so he's returning it to original. What would have been the?
This fill is not in any way mitigation. This is
got it.
just bringing back what was never authorized. It's
Got it.
restoration.
Understood.
The second thing is that permanent markers we're going to be putting at the top. In speaking in the field, I understood that was a post and rail fence. Because there's a very limited amount of lawn area, a limited amount of active space around this house. You're not going to be able to maintain your limit of work with markers. The third thing is that the stormwater discharge, Peter described it as just roof runoff that's being collected, but in 2008, there was a stormwater analysis done, And all of that swale was designed to take all of the driveway and all of the roof runoff was supposed to be infiltrated. So I certainly hope that the engineer is going to offer to do as much as was done in 2008. The second thing was sustainable lawn practices weren't put in here, and to be consistent with projects that you've been approving. Well, I understand the alternatives analysis is limited by past decisions. I do encourage you to consider that the site is very low quality wildlife habitat now, and you could do buffer zone restoration. And if you didn't consider that eliminating a hazard created by someone else is enough public interest for the site. So I honestly can't make a recommendation to approve this project as proposed.
Okay, I'll circle back to that because I wrote some notes down. So I'll circle back to that. I just want to give some other commissioners any questions to make comments or questions.
John, you got the floor, buddy. This is more your territory for sure.
Thanks, Mike. Peter, do you mind scrolling down just a bit in the plan? Yeah, that's good right there. So I guess my question is, what's the purpose for leaving the old foundation there, down past the markers?
That old foundation is almost non-existent. It's just barely sticking up above the existing grade. I honestly didn't even notice it the first time I was out there.
Okay.
And we had subsequently added it to the plan. Kind of just as proof that the site has been developed historically rather than having any real engineering implication.
Right.
It's kind of just, there's no reason to remove it, otherwise you're just disturbing everything around it.
Right. I guess my
6 inches, and it's got a gravel base
Okay.
in between it.
I guess one of my questions was, why not extend, part of that restoration towards that area as well, and maybe plant instead of the grass, put some sort of wildflower seed mix that you're going to only mow maybe twice a year or something like that, or once every year. That's kind of provides a benefit for habitat potential within an ACEC. Just some food for thought.
Okay, Mike, anything?
Nothing for me, nope.
So I think that there's probably so when the calculations were done on the hydrology of this site back in 2007, I remember some presentation of data and some handwritten calculations by one of your engineers. Did that include runoff infiltration of the house roof as well?
To be honest, in 2007, I was just wrapping up high school, so I was not involved in this. But
Andrea, do you recall? I mean,
That's the way the staff report was written.
yeah,
It was full building.
So I think if that's the case, Peter, that given where we're trying to put this house, that if we want to infiltrate the roof runoff from the main portion of the house as well, or design whatever infiltration you're using to handle all of the roof runoff.
It's definitely an option. One thing we were kind of discussing was by lowering the site down so much in the back, where we don't really offer ourselves many, underground infiltration options. I mean, we're proposing a 113 contour behind the house, so that's not going to be more than a foot or two above the wetland line vertically. So we could accommodate more infiltration. It would ultimately probably result in just bringing the grade up a little more. So it's kind of a balance with that. I mean, we don't have any room up front to do it, and we try not to do that stuff under the driveways. So it's an option, but there's not really.
So
Great option.
the alternative is to go back and redo your hydrology calculation.
Yep, and that's something I haven't personally looked at. It was explained to me that at the original approval, the subsurface system was designed only to accommodate the increase in the flow from the historic building and the new proposal. But I could be mistaken on that.
No, I
That's
think
how I was explained.
I think that could be accurate, but I think that someone's going to need to address that issue to clarify what that is, and So-
And if it is accurate, it wasn't what, it's not how the commission interpreted it.
Okay.
So honestly, stormwater is a requirement for an ACEC. So, and I don't, if you could you please zoom in a little bit on the elevations, because I believe that your wetland is significantly lower. You have 112 grades on top of the fill area. What is the existing grade at the toe of the slope? What is?
It looks like 111, about 112 at the toe.
I don't see the 112. I don't see the 112 line.
112 runs right behind the old
Okay.
foundation, and then it comes up tight to the bottom of the slope. And so does 111. So the wetland flags are about 111. And then we assume that the water table chases that up a little with the topography.
So he has got 2 feet of fill around the foundation, and so I think they could, if they wanted to, I think they could infiltrate, and honestly, we, even from Collins, we usually have the amount of impervious being created, since there's the 2008 application decision is void. So how much impervious are you creating here, and how much area are you improving? I don't know that you're going to get to 1-to-1. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm having such, difficulty with what they're offering.
So when they're calculating the increase in impervious, do we allow them to account the original footprint of the original house?
Well, that would be the house from
The prior house, the one they tore
from
down.
1971,
Okay.
the red line. The house that was approved in 2008 is when authorized but lost its authorization, so you're approving it for the first time. And honestly, I hear you being respectful of the decision that was made before. But it was what was back in 27, the last house that existed here was 1971 foundation in red. And the barn is in the back and is gone, and it died a natural death. It wasn't raised by the applicant.
No, I understand. So let's just, so I'm trying to I want to give Peter some clear direction here to go back to the team on this. And so in calculating the increase in impervious, do we allow them to capture the impervious footprint of the prior house that was raised with this foundation in?
If you choose to, you can, but the reason you can definitely do the 1971.
I think what I'm hearing is I could or I couldn't.
2008, you can make that argument.
It's up to us to decide which way we want to sort of go on that.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument that it was raised because it was condemned. It had fallen. So and it's 23 years ago, and it was not. It was not. The permit was not kept alive.
I understand that. No, I'm sort of respecting the spirit of the prior permit, but understanding that to us this is a brand new permit. But at the same time, I do want to sort of understand, maybe account for some of that consideration here. I mean, that's my viewpoint. So I think that so let's try and give you some perspective here to take back, because I think there's a bunch of questions. So I think that we probably should have a calculation about impervious surface increase on this, and then talk about what the offset to that should be. Whether that's enhancing the area that John talked about, where the former barn area or whatever it was may have been, and putting that back to naturalized habitat that could be used. Dealing with the roof runoff from a sense of this. Just for the record, Commissioner Lundin did join us just now. So respectfully, I'll ask that she not vote on this, although I think we're going to continue, unless the applicant wants us to go to vote. I think also the using a post and rail fence when it's so tight in this, if we don't use a post and rail fence, there's almost no way that area that you're returning to a sort of naturalized meadow mix and everything they'll turn it into lawn. I mean, it's just so tight. So I think you've got to go to a post and rail fence. And I'd like to, obviously we'd like to see sustainable lawn practices added to the plan as well. So I think those are 4 things for me. Does anybody else have anything that we might consider?
I think you touched upon it, Rory.
Good to go.
So I don't think, Peter, much of this is going to come as a surprise to the team. I think most of it was discussed with Andrea out in the field. So.
Yeah, no, we were expecting plenty of comments. It's kind of a tough project, so we got some input, and we can definitely look into those things and come back with some more answers for you.
So I think that from my perspective, I think that there is an opportunity for us to give some small amount of credit to you for the fact that there was a house on this lot 20 years ago. It's hard to sort of give you full credit for it because it was 20 years ago. So I mean, this site, another 10 years and it, maybe it even goes naturalized for all we know. So I think that except for the hole in the ground. So I mean, I think it would certainly benefit everyone that we get this lot developed. We just need to sort of stay within the confines of the regulations in order to get
Yep, understood.
So, any public comment for 244 Prospect? Seeing none, I will assume you want to continue, Peter,
Yes, please.
to the next meeting, or you want to go after that?
We should be all right for the next one.
Okay, so make a motion to continue 244 Prospect to April 20th. That's a Tuesday, Peter.
Thomas, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Beatty, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Thank you. And Carol, you want to abstain officially? So
You're muted, Carol.
Lundin abstain.
thank you. So Tish, we got 301 to continue. Thanks, Peter. Next one up is 15 Gyra Lane. This is a notice of intent to upgrade a single-family septic system.
Right. You bring up the plan. It's not it. All right, let's try this. Bear with me here. I'm trying to get the drawing up for you.
Just while we're waiting here, just as a note, if anybody in the audience is waiting on 91 Summer Street, that's later on in we're a couple away from that. That is going to be continued at request of the applicant. So I apologize for not saying that earlier, but if anybody's waiting for 91 Summer, it will be continued till our next meeting on April 20th. That's it.
All right, I'm ready. Can you guys see my screen again?
Absolutely, yep.
Awesome. So this one's a little more straightforward. This is a septic repair on an existing single-family home on Gyra Lane. We have a bordering vegetated wetland that wraps around the south and the eastern portions of the property. The 50-foot buffer cuts through the middle of the site, and the 100-foot buffer is just the northern portion of the lot. Our proposal is pretty much to replace what's there with including a new 2,000-gallon septic tank and a 25 by 41 leaching field. This is all being done in existing lawn area outside the 50-foot buffer. Our work is as close as 73 feet to the wetland, and our erosion control looks to be just outside of 50 feet. We have provided stockpile areas and dewatering outside of the 50-foot buffer in the existing lawn areas. As always, we provide erosion control wrapping around the project, pretty much the whole thing. We show conservation posts around the edge of the existing tree line. There's a total of 8 shown on the plan, spaced about every 40 feet, 30-40 feet around the lot. I guess that's about it. Any questions?
So Andrea, you want to give us a summary before we get into ours?
Sure, very quickly, the abutter notifications have been posted. If you could please lift your site a little bit to the north so we can see the full drive and the back property line. The reason I want to point out the back property line, that the lawn area extends to the wetland line, and that is on town conservation land. Other than previous non-compliance with the lawn area, the rest of the BVW is at the base of a slope. And so there's less incursion in the wetland area, but that's, other than that, the project is compliant with the simplified septic policy. It's obviously, as far as you can be, and still be on the site.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, Peter, the applicant obviously should stop mowing that portion of the property. I don't know if you've already staked those conservation posts. Usually you guys do, so.
They should be out there, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't go out there yesterday because it was Easter Sunday, so I didn't go out to the property. So we just need to get them to not mow beyond where those conservation posts are going to be. And that obviously will be something that gets checked at the certificate of compliance stage. So let's start that right away. I have no other questions. Anybody have any questions?
Do you think an extra post next to the shed would help? Just to keep that designation?
That's a good idea. I think you should add another post right behind the shed there.
Okay.
I was actually also thinking, John, of another post on the northeast corner, the top of the plan where wetland flag 19 is.
19 is, yeah.
So why don't we add 2 posts there?
Okay.
I know it's a lot of posts, but it's a linear right there, yeah.
Anything else from anybody on the commission? Thanks, John.
Sure, this is Carol. The lawn going up to the VVW line, I think by definition, an alteration to a resource area includes use of pesticides. So I'm wondering if we'd like to condition this so that there shall be no use of pesticides within, 50 feet of the BVW, at least 50 feet. Because you can't use pesticides in any buffer zone, according to the state rules without a permit.
Okay. Anything else? Mike, you all set?
I'm all set, Rory. Thank you.
Any public comment for 15 Gyra Lane? Seeing none, I assume you want to close?
Yes, please.
So make a motion to close the hearing and issue a permit for work and order conditions, noting no dumping in the wetlands is a perpetual condition. Permanent markers noted on the plan, plus 2 additional ones, one at wetland flag 19 and the other one behind the shed at the rear facing the lawn. And the applicant should not mow beyond the permanent markers. That's with a no disturb zone. Additionally, no use of pesticides within 50 feet of the wetlands.
Spady, a second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Excellent. Okay. Next up is 16 Gawain Road. This is a notice of intent for upgrade of a septic system.
Right, we can all see this one?
Yep.
Okay, as mentioned, this is a notice for a repair of an existing single-family septic. We have a wetland in the rear of the property, 50-foot buffer behind the house, and the purple line is the 100-foot buffer. The system is going in kind of a clearing between the 50 and 100 foot buffers. We will be accessing the site through the northern portion of the lot, clearing some of the trees that are encountered, most of which being outside the 100 foot buffer. There will be a little change in grade. It's probably coming up about 1.5 feet in the western portion of the project. Looking at it from the street, you won't really see an increase in the grading. The slope's just kind of going to drag out towards the wetland a little further than it does now. This is a 1,500 gallon septic tank and 14 by 48 leaching bed, so no pump chamber. We've proposed conservation posts at the existing tree line, approximately 20-25 feet off the bordering vegetated wetlands. We've staked out an erosion control line in the field, as well as the proposed septic system and conservation post locations. We provide dewatering and soil stockpile areas at or outside of the 100 foot buffer whenever possible. That's about it. Our erosion control is an 8-inch straw wattle that surrounds the project and including the site access. I'll take any questions now.
Andrea, you want to give us your summary?
The abutters were properly notified as posted to the application. The septic repair was originally approved in 2007, and the wetland line has been upgraded, has been confirmed since that point. There's a lot of man-made debris in the wetland, so I believe those permanent markers will be a good addition to the site. Originally, the order in 2007 had no road salts, a slow release fertilizer, and herbicide and pesticide use not allowed within 25 feet of a wetland. In addition to that, those were perpetual conditions. In addition to that, there was supposed to be a deed restriction that notified folks that there was no filling in the wetland without prior authorization by the commission. The order was not recorded, so I don't believe any of that work was done. Other than that, it is, other than the debris in the wetland, it is consistent with the simplified review policy.
Okay, any questions from, I have no questions. Any questions from the board?
Straightforward to me, all set. Thanks, Roy.
I agree with Mike on that one.
This is Carol. I'd like to see a change to the conditions that were no pesticide use within 25 feet. As we did in the previous application, I'd like to see that increase to 50 feet. As we know that by state, by the WPA, pesticide use in a buffer zone is an alteration, and that cannot be done without a permit. So I'm in favor of pushing that out to at least 50 feet.
So Andrea, can you give us, this is the first time I'm hearing about pesticide use being an alteration, so can you just confirm that and give me a citation?
I don't have it. I will look into that.
No, I can,
As I said, past commission said no pesticide use within 25 feet, and your sustainable lawn practice is usually you put that in place, which suggests other methods to keep your soil and growth moist and not need herbicides, pesticides, or anything but slow release. So I'll have to come up with I'll come up with the citation after the next meeting, if that's okay.
yeah, if I may, I can tell you where it is. It's in the definition section of the state, the laws or regulations. It's easy to get to.
1004 is what you're suggesting. Yeah, I don't recall that, I don't recall it being interpreted that way, so I'll double check.
Thank you.
So under the sustainable lawn practices, what's the guidelines we give them at that point?
Minimal use.
Hold on, can we check on that?
I can only check on one thing at a time. I was checking on alteration.
Okay.
So I'll read alter under 1004, if you don't mind. So this is just for for our education here. So alter means to change the condition of any area subject to protection under MGL Chapter 131, Section 40. And then examples of alterations include but are not limited to, and then A, B, C, D, a bunch of things. And it said, provided that when the provisions of 310 CMR 10036 and 10053 or 333 CMR 11039 have been met, the application of herbicides in the buffer zone in accordance with such plans is required by the Department of Food and Agriculture pursuant to 333 CMR 11 right-of-way management. So I just, the one question that I would have is whether or not 310 CMR 10036 and 10053 or 333 CMR 11039 are being triggered here. Because I see where it says that application of herbicides require a drug Department of Food and Agriculture permit here, but
There's a key piece there, Rory. Can you take a look at that alteration? It says
it is not an alteration of any.
it is not an alteration. If the application of herbicides, it doesn't say pesticides. The application of herbicides, if done in accordance with the Food and Ag right-of-way management, is not an alteration of the resource area. So this is for right-of-way management where they are allowed to. That's the transmission lines.
So can we reach out to MACC and see whether or not that's meant to imply the opposite?
Yeah, it's silent on the, it talks to herbicides in a right-of-way management as not being an alteration. It doesn't speak to pesticides, and it doesn't say explicitly that other than that it's an alteration.
From my recollection, pesticides are in the Wetlands Protection Act, which surround agriculture and the raising of animals,
right?
And limiting those, completely from those kind of areas, if I recall correctly. And I don't think we have that here for this condition. So I don't know.
Yeah, so
let me give more look to that whole pesticide.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for here. I'm not saying I'm opposed. I mean, through the sustainable lawn practices, we're already trying to encourage minimizing the use of any sort of chemicals, whether it be herbicides or pesticides. But I just want to make sure that we're on solid foundation here if we start implementing this as a regulatory device as opposed to our sustainable lawn practice.
Yeah, it would have to be at the local level that we're administering this practice.
Right.
We can't.
That's all I want to clarify.
Yeah, we can't be referencing the act if it doesn't specifically state that. So.
Sure, I agree. I'm looking at the town 5034 definitions, and their definition of alter number 11 addresses pesticides and herbicides.
So you had said the state definition, that's why I'd gone to the state.
Sure, yep.
Do you want to table this discussion for another meeting to get the answer to that? I'm sorry to be flat-footed on this.
Give me 15 seconds. So
5034.
okay, well, I think it's a lot to take in here and try and keep on track. So rather than get into we've already had a long discussion about this. So I'd rather take a couple weeks to figure out where this fits into our use of the regulations and sort of making the decision. So it's hard to put it all in context at this point. So any other comments? Okay, so I would like to make a motion to, Peter, I assume you want to close.
Yes, please.
I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing, issue a permit for work and order conditions, noting no dumping in the wetlands is a perpetual condition. Permanent markers is noted on the plan, marked with no disturb zone. Follow sustainable lawn practice guidance. No road salts. And I'm going to split the difference here. No pesticides within 25 feet of the buffer zone. Or within 25 feet of the wetlands.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin abstain.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, I.
301, Tish, for the record. Okay, Peter. I think that ends the Collins engineering portion.
Righty, thank you guys.
Thanks. Next up is 91 Summer Street, and we're going to continue 91 Summer. Is that correct, Andrea?
If the engineer is unable to attend this evening, and so he asked for a continuation to April 20th. My apologies, John, I didn't find out until this morning.
Motion to continue 91 Summer Street.
Lundin second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, I.
345 Center Street, a certificate of compliance, a partial certificate of compliance. Andrea?
Lot 8, I don't know if you have the plan up.
I can, yeah.
Thank you. Lot 8 is at the Goodspeed Estates, is the one down the common driveway closest to Cedar Drive. You saw it a few months ago, when they came in to modify their house, and you allowed that as a minor plan modification. Now they're asking for a partial certificate to release them from the subdivision order. The minor modification was of the subdivision order. So I recommend that certain things have been completed in the subdivision, and certain things have not, and the authorization remains valid for them to get that other work done. So there was the hyperlink for the sustainable lawn practices I was looking for. Okay, the work that has been completed associated with the overall 8-lot subdivision is the binder coat, which is the first coat of pavement along the roadway, as well as the sidewalks and the underground utilities, including a common wastewater treatment plant. The common drive has been reconstructed up to lot 7 and 8, which crossed over some old pipes, which they replaced. A V-notch weir was installed within the stream on another section of the subdivision, and a pedestrian bridge was put in place, and all the stream bank restoration associated with that work has been completed. The solid waste that was found in area C, which is part of is a common area that has presently been gifted to the town. The solid waste has been removed from that common area before it was gifted to us, and the invasive species work has not been completed. So the work that remains is they have to begin the invasive species management. They have to finish the paving of the roadway. They still have a bond with the planning board for that. They have to construct the house, the driveway, the septic, the final grading, the landscaping associated with the house, which is part of this order. There is a homeowners association that has been required of the subdivision, but not enough lots have been sold yet, so that the responsibility to complete the common area work, such as the roadway, the invasive species work, is the responsibility still of the developer, and we have that confirmed. Eventually, it'll be the homeowners.
So, I mean, this is just the new purchaser that is looking to get released from any liability for that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm suggesting that is it's somewhat temporary. Eventually, they're going to be, maybe the work will be done by the time the homeowners association is in place.
So is Mike Corey, is he the purchaser?
Oh, hand raised.
Yeah.
You want to allow him to talk then? There you go.
Mr. Corey, you have something to add to this?
Hi, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Corey from Madoff and Corey in Foxborough. We represent the buyer of Lot 8. The buyer's lender we understand that the knotweed remediation or the clearing of the knotweed is going to be a long-term project, and the lender's fine with that. But the lender wanted to get some kind of confirmation, hopefully a partial certificate of compliance with regard to the other specific matters concerning the Lot 8. And in response, the seller filed an application for a partial certificate of compliance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we as the commission have. I mean, I think that this developer has done everything we've asked them to do up to this point, and certainly I think we can have a discussion about it. I appreciate giving the perspective of why we're getting asked for a partial cert on this. I think that given the conditions, that I don't have any questions about moving forward as long as we agree what we're giving the partial cert for related to the things that the agent was mentioning here. So, does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Carol?
Thank you, Rory. I guess my question is giving a partial cert, is it in the public benefit in some way? Or does it harm public benefit in any way?
It's a right of the applicant to request a certificate when work is completed at any stage, he is required by law to get a complete certificate of compliance when all work is constructed. But the applicant has a right to apply at any point in time. It's not a public interest issue.
It commonly occurs when there's a transfer of land or property, when there's work that's been done on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So, Andrea, what can I reference in your staff notes to say exactly what we're giving the COC for, or can I just say as noted in the staff report?
If you say as noted in the staff report, then I will identify in item 5 the work that has been completed, and I will also identify in item 6 the work that needs to be completed. So it's very clear what's approved, what's not approved. And then there are items that were identified as special conditions that are perpetual, which
Great.
you would expect to be no road salts, no dumping in wetlands, and maintenance of the stormwater management system will continue to be a responsibility after any cert's issued.
Gotcha. Okay, so I make a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance noting the items in staff report number 5 have been completed. Items in staff report on number 6 are to be completed. Also noting perpetual conditions. In the original order, conditions are number 55, no road salt, sodium chloride, or other de-icing chemicals. Number 56, no dumping in the wetlands. And number 57, maintenance of the stormwater management system. And this is for lot 823 Good Speed Lane.
Lundin, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
DI.
Thomas, I.
Okay, Mr. Corey, you're all set.
Thank you very much. We have a closing potentially on Wednesday. Would it be possible for me to pick up the certificate of compliance tomorrow? So we'd have it available to record on at closing on Wednesday?
Leave your email or telephone number in the chat, and it's possible that it'll be ready in the late afternoon.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Okay. We aim for trees.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is minutes for February 22nd, and of course, I had something, and now I can't find my minutes. I know exactly what it was, so let me find it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to take Mr. Corey down to the 10B. No, somebody's already done it. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about February 8th. The minutes were simply amended to include some documents that were presented at the hearing. That's the only change. To list them on the minutes as is the standard here. So one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the hearing is that anything we present at the as part of our discussion, extra material that's not included in the application should be given to the clerk in the agent, so that we have it for our files in case anybody ever asks. For example, we show pictures from time to time, and if I do it, I send them to Andrea and Tish the next day. That's just a good habit. So any questions about the minutes amendment for February 8th?
None from me.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as amended for February 8th.
Thomas, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
DI.
Oh, did we get a Thomas aye on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, Thomas. I'll say Thomas, I. Sorry.
that's okay. I was reading the next one. I think that the only thing was on the February 22nd meetings, there's under the conditions for 111 Washington Street. I just want to, the last item, it says the commission, you copied and pasted the conditions from number 13, which was from the staff report, and there's one item on there that just doesn't belong there. Any conditions identified during the commission during the public hearing. We would have to include it there, so let's just remove that line. Tish, you all set on that? It's the top of page 4. Somebody's all set. She's all set. Thank you, Tish. So I make a motion. Anybody else have any comments on February 22nd? So make a motion to accept the minutes for February 22nd with the minor change on page 4 related to 111 Washington Street.
A second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Katie, aye.
Thomas, aye.
Just, you're keeping me on my toes. And we will, and so the March 8th one was canceled because we didn't have the correct Zoom link. And so that's all that those minutes say. So I make a motion. I assume there's no comments about this. Make a motion to accept the minutes for March 8th.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Do I have to abstain since I wasn't present?
You can approve the minutes if you want, but you can abstain or you can vote whatever way you
It
want.
was canceled, John.
I know. I'm going to abstain just for fun.
301, Tish. Okay, so that's it for the minutes. Andrea, environmental planner updates.
Yeah. Does John have something to say while I get mine ready?
So I will be departing the commission, everyone, just so everyone knows. I've got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff going on, so I gotta prioritize on life. It's something that I really need to do. So I appreciate everybody. You know, this is a great group of folks. You know, I've learned a lot since I've been on the commission, and you know, I look forward to dealing with everyone in the near future. It's gonna be a joy, hopefully. So I've talked to Andrea already about things. You know, we'll be working together in the Canoe Aquifer group there, and you know, I look forward to working with her some more. But Rory, the commission's very lucky to have you at the helm. I will say that. So, and Carol, I do enjoy your input. It's very good. And Mike, as always, I'll be in touch with you soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everything you brought to us, John, and I've learned a lot from you for sure. And you know, you are going to be missed. And
I can't forget Tish either. She's been great with helping Andrea out. It's definitely, I know from experience that it's always good to have somebody that you can rely on. It's definitely a godsend to have someone, you know, that knows the ins and outs and is able to, you know, assist. So thank you, Tish.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for your service, John.
Thank you, Carol.
Big loss. So on to the more mundane.
Yeah. So this is your last meeting?
What's that?
This is your last meeting?
This will be my last meeting, yes.
All the best.
Thank you.
So for the other environmental updates, Meadowview Commons is a 36 lot subdivision created through the affordable comprehensive permit. It's 36 houses, of which 9 are considered affordable. They let their permit lapse before the wetland creation and buffer zone restoration was done. Most of the actual construction of house lots, stormwater, and wastewater treatment plants done, but they are coming in next meeting for a notice of intent to continue to authorize the wetland creation and buffer zone. The question that they have for you is whether or not you'll consider a reduced fee. They're requesting a fee of $900 knowing that if they calculated out the cost of review of over 22,000 square feet of restoration, buffer zone enhancement and wetland creation, it would be $10,000 maximum. So this was a comprehensive permit. They're asking that they do the work this fall, so they're hoping you don't make any significant changes. And to the authorization, and it wasn't a bad authorization the first time. So my review is going to be pretty limited because I'm familiar with the order, even though it was issued before I came on.
Yeah, so it was issued before me too. So, but I, once again, I think I said this in a prior hearing as far as respecting a prior board's decision. And so I really think that, if you're familiar with it, you believe this is going to be come in, represent that portion of the project in a very simplified, streamlined way, and your review is going to be fairly streamlined. I'm more concerned about your work than anything else. I mean, if you get stuck doing a lot of work, then $900 isn't going to cover very much. If this is a matter of just pushing paperwork through so they can continue this project and get it finalized and everything else, I think I'm okay with that. It seems fair to the it seems fair to the applicant to consider it. It is an ask, and that's okay. But I'm more concerned about, is it fair to you?
Well, the advantage of the order expired in November 2020, and as you recall, the world was a little nuts.
Right.
He didn't realize his permit expired because he was paying attention to other things. He's brought on
When did it expire, by the way?
November of 2020, because the issue of the superseding order, we issued a permit back in 2006, but a superseding order was issued in 2019 and was extended once.
Okay, so it still should be valid with the COVID restriction, right?
Well,
because
it explicitly was November 20th, November 2020. He's not gonna be valid long enough because it's only going to be, you only get 45 days after they lift the emergency cert. And so he's not going to be valid long enough.
Oh, okay.
To get the work completed this fall. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it in the springtime. They want to do it in the fall.
But couldn't he still extend it though?
No, DEP said no.
Really?
DEP said you didn't ask before it. You didn't ask in a timely way. They went, because I asked the question of DEP.
Okay, that's good to know, because I have a large scale permit that's occurring in town, and their permit's going to expire soon. So, it's on their behalf to make sure that they extend their permit then.
If they can't get it done within 45 days of lifting the order. So the advantage of me bringing this to their attention was they brought forward Brad Holmes to actually look at the work that was authorized, and he gave us a much more detailed plan, planting plan, planting list, much more carefully thought out. So it's basically construction drawings. Now that he took the concept and he's bringing it into how many plants to order. So yes, I'm convinced it'll happen in one meeting.
Then I would be in favor of a reduced fee. Anybody else?
I would agree.
Yeah, I side with you on that one, Rory.
Okay, so do you need? So I make a motion to accept a reduced fee for, what is it, Meadowview Commons?
Meadowview Commons, reduced fee of $900.
For Meadowview Commons to reduce fee of $900 for the wetland mitigation replication.
Spady, a second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, I.
Second thing of interest is that, you remember 226 Massapog was approved at the meeting of March 22nd. And did we, I don't remember if it was approved on the 22nd, but anyways, the meeting was continued. I mean, the discussion on the 22nd was about whether to have permanent deed restriction or a conservation restriction, and you voted to close with a permanent deed restriction, not a CR, after much thoughtful discussion. A citizen petition was received, was drafted the day after the decision was voted, with 23 people requesting that you consider a conservation restriction rather than a permanent deed restriction. I myself, and speaking to town council, and speaking to the chairman, the commission voted to close the hearing, and no new information can be brought forward. The decision hasn't been issued, so if they want to appeal the decision based on this information, they can. But if they have appeal rights, some of them, I do recognize some of the names as being abutters, but I believe you took the issue. I can show you the letter. I have it, but I believe you had a very thoughtful discussion of whether permanent deed restriction or CR, and I don't recommend you reopen the hearing, but
I will state, Andrea, is that I'm in agreement with not reopening the hearing, because I don't believe it was advocated to us from the public that they wanted a conservation restriction over a deed restriction. They'd have to say that in a public setting for us to really, I guess, for the appeal to hold up in court, right?
Public comments have to be received during the hearing.
Right.
And so public comments received after the hearing is closed is information you can't take into consideration.
Right. So they should have brought that up at the meeting to address it then and there, if they were so concerned regarding the type of restriction that was going to be placed on the property.
So if you recall, there was a very thoughtful discussion among commissioners, and there may have been some public that opined, but I recall the comments being that you guys did a really good job. Thanks so much for being protected.
I mean, we did not, I don't think we did it simply based upon request of the applicant. In fact, I recall my specific request is, why are we doing a deed restriction instead of a conservation restriction? And it had to do with a concern of a backlog of getting conservation restrictions approved by the state. And so, and given that the advice we had received from council on the issue, town council on the issue, we felt that we could proceed with a deed restriction if the applicant accepted all the changes that were going to be requested of them from town council, as well as expanding the easement beyond the 5 foot that they had offered. So I think that we end up getting we get a permanent restriction on the land, and and I think that we're okay. Town council's advice. So I mean, I think that in general that the butters were pretty happy with the decision and how we approached this. I think probably we were extremely thoughtful about how we approached that particular difficult, challenging application. So I think we have to stand behind what we did, and apologize to the abutters for feeling like not everything was covered. But I think even given that condition, I'm not 100% sure we would have made a different decision anyway. We really had a very thoughtful conversation about it.
So I bring this to your attention because there's 21 days to issue the decision. I held the decision to make sure that you knew that this was in there and to confirm that, you know, we're gonna write it the same way.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement to stand by what the decision was made that evening.
Right, so of those 23 people who signed that letter, any 10 of them who are not abutters can appeal, is that right?
Well, I have to verify that. It's 10 citizen group, and 5 of which have to be in the town that you are. If you do a 10 citizen group, 5 of them have to be in the town that the work happens in. The work is happening in Easton, and all the residents are from Mansfield. But in this case, because it's on the property line, the town line, you can be in a butter and have the right to appeal, but but the 10 citizen group wouldn't have 5 Easton residents. So it's gray. And it's great.
Okay. Thanks for bringing it forward, Andrea.
So emergency cert, remember over at 107 South Street, the work's proceeding. They've cleaned up as of last Tuesday. They had created a trench through the wetland from the sump pump to the trib of Mulberry Brook. That trench stayed open as of Tuesday, but it kept getting wider based on their finding and needing to dispose of soils. I came up with a restoration plan with them because as of Tuesday, they were out of the trib and just about at the wetland line with their ability to having found as much contaminated soil as they were going to find. And so you'll be seeing a notice of intent with a restoration plan within 60 days of that certificate issued. They're doing very careful work, and the booms are in place, and it's pretty clean. Regarding next to topic is the Trail Improvement Gift Fund. After the $3,400 was received on March 22nd, Chris Patrick collected another $350 from local residents, bringing a total of $3,750 from local residents to improve Flyaway Pond conservation area. With the money that New England Mountain Bike Association is giving directly for materials, Chris has has enough money to complete the expanded trail work that he identified as needing to be done. And other than that, the MACC conference starts on Tuesday, tomorrow. And I'm teaching the effective orders of conditions because you guys write really good conditions.
You write good.
You write, yes, you write them.
So we got, hopefully won't see you there at my talk, but we will pay for your registration if you haven't already decided if you're going to go or not.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Andrew, did you want to mention the Eagle Scout who wants to do a
I was going to wait. There's an Eagle. I was going to wait until next week. There's an Eagle Scout. I had mentioned to the commission in conceptually that we have an Eagle Scout who wants to do a pollinator garden over at Wheaton Farm, and I asked Carol to join me in a preliminary Zoom meeting on Thursday to help him flush out his presentation so that he can bring the presentation to the full board, maybe as early as April 20th.
So is there, so thank you. I think it's, you know, whatever, you guys bring it forward when you're ready to bring it forward to us. This Tufts Farm, what's the timetable on that at this point?
The bids are due. Anybody who's wants to make a proposal, the proposals are due at 10 o'clock this Friday. We had one family who's interested in, lives in the central part of the state, who's was interested in coming and seeing the property during an open house. Mike Spadilla was so good to join me, so that he and I were able to give a tour of both the inside and the outside of the property to that potential person. And so those are the only two serious requests we got. The other requests were from firms that solicit information to distribute to others. So may or may not. So I'll let you know at our next meeting. I'll let you know if you're on the evaluation team, Mike and Rory O'Dwyer. And hopefully we'll start meeting the week of the 19th and the 26th.
Anything else anybody wants to raise? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Thomas, second.
Oh, man.
8:25, woohoo!
Roll call vote to John's last meeting. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thomas, aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you for sure.
You guys have been a joy to hang out with and discuss, you know, all these projects. It's been great.
I only wish we'd been able to meet in person, you know?
I know. That would have been a lot better.
You know what I'm gonna do is when we open up to meetings, whenever that happens again, I'll just show up at the Sharon meetings.
That would be great. You should do that. Hey, if
I'll
y'all
sneak up on you in the woods in Sharon somewhere. I'm out there.
Yeah. I know I'm gonna run into you, Mike, eventually.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
I'm gonna catch you doing something.
I'm in camo. Good luck.
Okay, thank you all very much.
All right,
and,
thank
we'll
you.
see you on the, except for John on the 5th. So.
Yep. Happy
Please.
trails.
Thank you very much, John.
I'm sorry, the 20th. Not today's the 5th. The 20th.
There you go.
Take
See you
care,
later.
everyone. Good luck. See you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Good luck, John.